welcome to the Thursday, June the 13th, 2019 regular session of the Xenia City Council. We'll begin our meeting this evening with an invocation led by Mr. Charlie Huff, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mayor Mays. If you would please rise with me for the invocation and pledge, please.
Good to see you all again today. So we bow in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we come together once again and join together to pray for one another, with each other, for our country, for Xenia, for our troops, for our president, friends and family. Lord, pray without ceasing. We come to you this evening, Lord, as a lot of hurting people. Let us love one another, Lord, as we travel through this world. And a lot of my friends and family's gone, and so has some of these others. We depend on one another. We want to help one another, love one another. I ask you to look over to the council members, each and every one, and you know them all by name. You know us all. Look over them and guide them and direct them, the ones that take care of us and watch over our city and do what is right. And Lord, we ask your blessings upon everyone that's here tonight and all the ones that's around the TV audience. We come to you. You are our God. And we thank you, Lord, every day. I thank you for life, for friends and family. Thank you for each and every one of these council members, Lord, that I have been friends with for many years. Watch over them, guide and direct them. And Lord, as we travel together in love and pray for the world, thank you for loving us and guiding us. And Lord, we come to you in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Huff and Mayor Mays. May I have roll call, please?
Vice President Wallace.
Here.
Councilman Urschel. Councilman Lauterbach.
Here.
Councilman Smith.
Here.
Councilman Dean.
Here.
Mayor Mays.
Here.
President Engel.
Aye, here.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to excuse Councilman Urschel.
Thank you. Have a motion to excuse Councilman Urschel this evening. Is there a second, please? Seconded by the Vice President. Any discussion or question on the motion, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Wallace.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
Mayor Mays.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. This time we have an opportunity for approval of minutes for our May 23rd, 2019 regular session, please. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Smith. Second, please.
Second.
Seconded by the Vice President. Any discussion or question on our minutes, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Wallace.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
Mayor Mays.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. We have no special presentations scheduled this evening, so at this time we have an opportunity for audience comments. Anyone wishing to address the Xenia City Council, please feel free to do so. Step to the podium, provide us your name and address. Limit your comments 4 to 5 minutes, please.
John Cup, 936 Orville Way. Want to thank Charlie Huff there for the prayer this evening. Charlie does a lot for the Republican Party and volunteers and helps us out a lot. If you've never seen him give the Gettysburg Address, he does a phenomenal job with it. So also mentors a lot of people around the city, young kids and whatnot. So we need more people like Charlie involved in the community for sure. So thank Charlie for that since he's here tonight. Last meeting, I brought up some property maintenance issues. Driving around town, I'm happy to see that some of those things are being addressed. I just wish we would be more proactive in reaching out to some of these businesses. I mean, we need more people like Doug Degenhart that keep his property meticulous, or Peterson and Peterson, Berkshire Hathaway, Right Pack Credit Union. A lot of people keep their properties really nice, and then when you have one right next door, like Dollar Tree, that looks like, junk, it's an eyesore. They did mow the grass, but they did a pretty crappy job at it. There's still a lot of tall grass around the trees where I guess they just didn't want to take the time and do it the right way. But we should demand more out of our businesses than we do. I mean, you drive to other communities and these national chains, they don't keep their properties that way in other communities. So why do they do it here? I mean, even somebody like Great Memorial Hospital, if you look at that property is not maintained like Soin or Kettering. Why not? We should demand that they maintain their property like they do in other communities. It's not because it's just Xenia, but until we demand it from the top down, starting at council and our appointed officials, it's not gonna happen. So we need to be more proactive on that. Also, numerous months ago, I made a public records request for the last 3 evaluations of our appointed officials. They're supposed to be done biannually. I know I got a response back from either Michelle or from the HR director. And then I never saw anything after that. So I don't know if it was because it was me, it just got shoved aside, don't worry about it. We're not gonna comply with the public records request. I thought it was funny that after I did the request, I saw where 3F Coaching's gonna come in and teach our appointed officials how to do evaluations. I would think, being in management, I would hope that they already knew how to do evaluations and we didn't have to spend money to teach them how to. But unfortunately, I guess we do. But those evaluations, I'm real curious to see the goals and expectations that are given to our appointed officials, and then the follow-up 6 months later to those goals and expectations, and how we're evaluating our appointed officials. Because it all trickles down from the top. And if we don't demand more from our appointed officials, from a council standpoint, then we can't demand more from our employees. So with that being said, I would hope that I could get those last 3 appointed official evaluations. I'm curious to see what other council members, say in their evaluations of the appointed officials. I mean, our city manager got 2 huge increases last year. I'd like to see what the evaluations state. So, with that being said, I'm making the request to council president, that I get those last 3 appointed official evaluations. Thank you very much.
Would anyone else care to address the Xenia City Council this evening, please? Seeing no one else come forward, we will move on to old business this evening. First item is Resolution 2019-N, a second reading, appointing members to the City of Xenia's Charter Review Commission, originally introduced by Councilman Letterback.
So moved for passage.
Move for passage. Is there a second, please? Seconded by the mayor, by nose. Any discussion or question on the motion, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Walsh,
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach,
Aye.
Councilman Smith,
Aye.
Councilman Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Mays,
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Now we have opportunity for public hearings. The first one is ordinance 2019-13, a second reading, vacating a section of June Drive in the Progress Center Section 1 plat between South Progress Drive and the Lane Number 4, Part C plat within the corporate limits of the city of Xenia, Ohio, originally introduced by Vice President Wallace.
Do we need a motion for passage now before the public hearing?
Madam Law Director? Should we have the motion to put this on the table before or after the public hearing?
I would put it on the table and then hold the public hearing, please.
And so,
Thank you.
I move the passage.
Move for passage, second please.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Smith. Hold comments until we conduct the public hearing and then council can ask questions. So at this time, I will open the public hearing and invite anyone wishing to speak for the vacating of this section to step to the podium, provide us your name and address. Limit your comments 4 to 5 minutes, please.
Good evening, my name's Jerry Sharkey, I actually live in Clear Creek Township. I'm a commercial real estate broker, and I am here on behalf of the owner of the 2 parcels of land that the right-of-way dissects. Our intention is to assemble, once the right-of-way is vacated, we'll provide an easement, and I think it's all in the same package, and once that is approved, we'll assemble the 2 parcels together and make it into 1 parcel. It gives us a few more options, to maybe do some further development there, and or just keep the properties as they are, make them more valuable. So that's what our intentions are at this time. Anything else?
Just your opportunity to make comments, sir.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else wishing to speak for this particular motion to step to the podium, provide us your name and address? Seeing no one else come forward, I will ask anyone wishing to speak against vacating this section of property to step to the podium, provide us your name and address.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. President, I would like to hear from Brian, just a brief synopsis.
Sure, can we hold that until we get through with the
Absolutely.
public hearing, and then we'll have council comments and we'll invite him to take the podium. Anyone wishing to speak against? Thank you. Seeing no one come forward, anyone wishing to speak neither for nor against, but on the subject of vacating this section, please step to the podium, provide us your name and address. Seeing no one come forward, I will close the public hearing at this time, and we have a motion and a second on the table. I will now invite comments from council and invite Brian to the podium for a brief synopsis of the action.
Thank you. Good evening, members
Thank
of
you.
council. I think the representative who spoke during the public hearing did a pretty good job of summarizing the request. The individual petitioning for this vacation is the owner of 65 South Progress Drive. It's a approximately 3,700 square foot commercial building. They recently purchased a vacant lot that's to the north that abuts the intersection of Progress Drive and West Main Street. They intend to they did that in order to have more space to expand parking and expand future tenant options for the building that they own. This right-of-way sits between that vacant parcel and their building. So in order to make use of that vacant parcel, they would have to construct a driveway or other connection or parking across that right-of-way. We do not have any plans for that right-of-way. In fact, we do not want to extend June Drive into that right-of-way because it would create an unsafe intersection with Progress Drive. So that's why we are acquiescing to this, and we recommend that it occur. We think it'd be a better use of that land. We will keep the bike path and the utilities that are currently in place there via the easement that Mr. Sharkey requested. So we feel that this is in the best interest of not only the property owner, but the city as well and the surrounding community. So we recommend approval.
Thank you very much. Any questions from my colleagues, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Wallace?
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach?
Aye.
Councilman Smith?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor May?
Aye.
President Engel?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. And now a second public hearing. This is Resolution 2019-0, an emergency, authorizing submission of applications to the state of Ohio for CDBG funds for the 2019 Target of Opportunity Grant and declaring an emergency. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, sir. Resolution 2019-0 would authorize the city's application to the state of Ohio for Target of Opportunity grant funding through the Ohio Development Services Agency. This form of grant funding falls under the CDBG program, and therefore the application process must include a public hearing for consideration of community input, which we of course are requesting this evening. The Target of Opportunity grant program awards up to $200,000 to an eligible community for unique projects that reduce slum and blight and which do not otherwise fall under existing grant program guidelines. The city's proposed application would seek resources to help fund the development of a community plaza in the southeast corner of the former Kmart lot in the Xenia Town Square. Redevelopment of the site has been hindered by presence of some soil gases from prior commercial operations at or near that location. Working in conjunction with the Ohio EPA, we've determined that an open-air plaza would mitigate any lingering concerns with this aspect of the site. The outdoor plaza would focus on two themes as we seek to reduce the blighting conditions around the site and reactivate the space. First, it would serve as a point of recognition of servicemen and women from the Xenia community who will be represented through a memorial in the central portion of the site. Second is a focus on expanding recreational amenities in our downtown through the inclusion of a water feature green space for congregating and landscaping and lighting features that can be used seasonally as an attraction for our downtown marketplace. The water feature would be somewhat similar to what's at the splash pad in Xenia Station, but much smaller in scope and scale, less expensive, less to manage. The design of the Veterans Memorial component has been provided free of charge through a partnership with Mr. Zach Benson, who's an art professor at Cedarville University. Zach, along with his family business, they do stonework. They've donated time to help develop what we think is a pretty beautiful concept to recognize the long history of Xenians in service to our country. The plaza concept has also been developed in conjunction with Brandy Corp, the selected developer for the redevelopment of the former Kmart site. The plaza should serve as an excellent promotional feature to help secure commercial tenants with retail services that attach well to the recreational nature of the plaza. Total budget for the plaza project is preliminary estimated at $529,000, though this number is intentionally conservatively high. Likely budget will be much lower than that. The Target of Opportunity Grant would fund $200,000 of this expense. The balance of funding would come from additional limited use CDBG program income funds and from our special miscellaneous use fund, also known as our 233 fund, the lingo that we use. So we remind folks that these are funds that are not tax dollars, but rather lease proceed payments from the town square. Those are typically used for projects and maintenance programs in our downtown. In discussions with various downtown stakeholders and Development Services Agency leadership about the project concept, there's been universal support for the idea, and again, it allows a way for us to mitigate any environmental concerns. So requesting the public hearing be conducted this evening, and the resolution 2019-0 be adopted as an emergency in order to fast track the application approval to the Development Services Agency for the July round of grant funding.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion, please, as an emergency?
So moved. Second.
Moved by the mayor and seconded by the vice president. And before we entertain discussion on it, I will open the public hearing on this issue and invite anyone wishing to speak for this CDBG funds to step to the podium, provide us your name and address. Limit your comments 4 to 5 minutes, please. Seeing no one come forward, I will invite anyone wishing to speak against the use of these CDBG funds for this purpose. Step to the podium, provide us your name and address. Seeing no one come forward, anyone wishing to speak neither for nor against, but on the subject of these CDBG funds, step to the podium, provide us your name and address. Seeing no one come forward, I will close the public hearing on this and invite any questions or comments from my colleagues. Congratulations on working through this rather lengthy process of getting this site ready to go for development. And I think that this particular portion that will be put in will be a focal point for our downtown. Thank you very much. Roll call, please.
Vice President Walls?
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach?
Aye.
Councilman Smith?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor Mays.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Moving to new business, first item is ordinance 2019-14, seeking an introduction, levying assessments for the improvements of city streets and public ways by the lighting thereof within lighting district number 3 for the years 2020 to 2022. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, sir. Ordinance 2019-14 is the last action council will need to take to implement street lighting assessments within the street lighting district for number 3, as indicated for the years 2020 through 2022, as requested by the developer and pursuant to our land use code. The developer, which is M1 Development LLC of the Sterling Green Crossing subdivision, Section 3 has received a cost to install 9 streetlights along with the monthly electricity fee per the city's contract with Miami Valley Lighting. Developer is responsible for the installation cost of the streetlights, and the city would then be responsible for paying those monthly electricity fees moving forward. Council passed the required resolution of necessity to establish the District Number 3 on March 28th of this year. Council also adopted the required ordinance to proceed with the street lighting in the district on May 9th of this year. The ordinance presented tonight is the third and final step in the street lighting assessment process. Once this ordinance would become effective, a street light assessment will be included on the individual lot owner's property tax duplicates from the Greene County Auditor. Based on the city's current contract with Miami Valley Lighting and including the administrative fees associated with continuing the assessment of each lot on a yearly basis, the owner of each of the 46 lots within District Number 3 would pay an annual fee of $23.41.
Thank you very much. May I have an introduction from one of my colleagues, please?
So introduced.
Introduced by the Vice President. Thank you very much. Next item is Resolution 2019-P, also seeking an introduction, accepting dedication of a conservation easement on the properties located at 809 Luther Drive from Traditions at Xenia. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, sir. Staff recommends that council introduce and later approve Resolution 2019-P to accept the dedication from Traditions of Xenia of a conservation easement on the property located at 809 Luther Drive. National Church Residences, principal owner and developer of the Traditions of Xenia, has submitted a conservation easement to the city to fulfill the open space dedication requirements of our Land Development Code, Chapter 1230, in connection with its new 51-unit Legacy Village apartment building. The easement will protect an area containing an existing memorial garden at the intersection of Luther Drive and Wycliffe Drive. The applicant is dedicating private open space, which per our Land Development Code, Section 1230.07, must be protected via conservation easement. Such an easement prohibits development other than the uses permitted our code for passive or active recreational amenities, community gardens, picnic areas, and associated shelters. The existing memorial garden is a permitted use, and the easement will remain private property, meaning the private property owner must be responsible for the maintenance and not the city. By accepting and recording this conservation easement, the city is carrying out the requirements of the Land Development Code, Section 1230.07, and again, not assuming any obligations for costs other than enforcement of the easement. Our staff believes that the existing memorial garden area not only satisfies the requirements of the code, but also provides an attractive amenity for the apartment residents. And with that, we recommend introduction of this ordinance to this effect this evening.
Thank you very much. May I have an introduction from one of my colleagues, please?
So introduced.
Go ahead.
Introduced by Councilman Lauterbach. Thank you. Next item is Resolution 2019-Q, also seeking an introduction, accepting dedication of a signed easement on Lot 1 of Xenia Industrial and Commercial Park, Section 2, from GDP Investments LLC. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, sir. Resolution 2019-Q is a measure that, if approved, would authorize execution of an easement dedication with GDP Investments for access to property associated with the Xenia Industrial Park sign located on Lot 1 of the Xenia Industrial and Commerce Park, Section 2. The city has listened to concerns from business owners within the industrial park, as well as others who have expressed concern about the dated appearance of the existing signage, as well as a lack of maintenance with the hardscape around it. Upon further investigation, we learned that the original easement identifies the Xenia Industrial Park Property Owners Association as the entity responsible for maintenance of that sign, but unfortunately the Xenia Industrial Park Property Owners Association no longer exists and hasn't for many years. By default, the property owner, which is GDP Investments, is responsible for maintaining the sign. Upon making contact with GDP, we learned that they have tended the area around the sign in compliance with our property maintenance code, but they have no specific interest in the sign itself. So they were willing to work with us and grant the city an easement over the sign area to allow the city to repurpose the existing sign as a more general gateway feature. We've included funding from our 233 fund in this year's budget to update the sign and the landscaping as well as hardscaping. We have a picture of that to provide a more aesthetically pleasing gateway feature for that significant entrance into our community on 68. Staff recommends introduction of the resolution included with the staff report to initiate acceptance of the easement and ultimately the addition of the new gateway signage.
Thank you very much. May I have an introduction from one of my colleagues, please?
So introduced.
Introduced by Councilman Lauterbach. Thank you. Next item is an administrative motion approving the final plat and authorizing the city manager to execute a subdividers agreement for Sterling Green Crossing Phase 4. Mr. City Manager.
Developer M1 Development LC, aided by Ryan Holmes, is proposing a 40-lot fourth and final phase of the Sterling Green Crossing subdivision. An administrative motion authorizing approval of a final plat and execution of the subdividers agreement is the necessary next step to facilitate this. Phases 1, 2, and 3 of the crossing subdivision were approved by council between the years of 2016 and 18, lending now to this final phase. Public improvements in these sections are nearly complete, with the exception of the final layer of asphalt, some sidewalk sections, and any outstanding utilities identified by the city's engineering division. Phase 4 will extend Kingman Drive, Glen Kegley Drive, and New Mexico Drive. The extended Kingman Drive will connect with both Glen Kegley and New Mexico Drive. Our staff has reviewed the Sterling Green Crossing Phase 4 final plat and the construction drawings and found them to be consistent with our land development code and preliminary plat for the subdivision, with the exception of minor changes noted in the recommendation from Planning and Zoning Commission. Again, that is notated in your agenda report this evening. Because the developer will not complete all of the required public improvements prior to recording the plat, it is necessary to enter into a subdividers agreement backed by a performance bond to guarantee completion of the public improvements. This is a change we made in policy a number of years ago to ensure that infrastructure is completed satisfactorily when it's not all done up front. And so staff is recommending that the council authorize the administrative motion this evening, and that'll give approval of the final plat and execution and allow us to execute the subdividers agreement.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion, please, from one of my colleagues?
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Smith. Second, please.
Second.
Seconded by the Vice President. Any discussion or question on this motion, please? Councilman.
I'm glad to see the performance bond
Absolutely.
because that puts the developers' feet to the fire. You know, that's been,
An ongoing problem in some of our subdivisions before that
Yeah.
policy was in place. You're right.
yeah, that's good. Thank you.
And those outstanding items, we will ensure that they're completed.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other discussion from my colleagues, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Wallace,
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach,
Aye.
Councilman Smith,
Aye.
Councilman Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Mays,
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Next item is an administrative motion as well, authorizing the city manager to execute an addendum to the Central State University Fire and EMS contract for a one-year extension. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, sir. As indicated, we are recommending council approve this motion to authorize the execution of the addendum with Central State. This is for the fire and EMS contract. It's for a one-year extension of those services. City has provided emergency medical and firefighting to Central State since 2012. The city and university have subsequently executed extensions of the contract for the continuation of those services. As the agreement has been beneficial to both the university and the city, and its current term is set to expire at the end of June this year, we recommend council authorize another one-year extension. It's recommended this be accomplished expeditiously through an addendum to the prior contract rather than execution of a new contract, which would essentially say the same things. The contract continues to provide for the current conditions and maintains the annual payment to the city of $156,000 plus the right for EMS billing revenue for the provision of those services.
Thank you. May I have a motion, please, to approve? Getting ahead of me. The Vice President. Second, please.
Second.
Seconded by the mayor. Any discussion or question on this motion, please? Councilman.
Do we have a ballpark figure on the EMS billing revenue?
Yeah, just pulling that up here, actually.
While Ryan's trying to find that, what we can tell you is that historically what we've seen is the revenue is lower because the call volume has actually been lower than we anticipated. So while that EMS billing revenue is lower than we had originally anticipated, we've also provided a lot fewer, or far fewer services than we anticipated.
In 2018, it was almost $2,700. In 17, it was about $7,800. It's fluctuated year to year, but Mr. Merriman's point, the lower collections speaks to the decrease in call volume as well. And the fee of the $156,000 stays consistent regardless of the number of calls, so.
I would also add that we're in negotiations with Central State, or discussions right now, working through our fire division to provide some additional training services to their residential life staff. And we think that that additional level of training will help provide a better level of care for students who do have critical needs, but will help us to avoid some of the unnecessary response for fire alarms that are not genuine, that sort of thing. So we feel like we can reduce some of that additional time that we would travel out there through just some simple training with the residential life staff.
Thank you.
I do have one other question.
Please.
If the annexation of Central State becomes a reality, then this contract is null and void, because that would be one of the services that we would provide as a part of them being in the city.
That is correct. Of course, the current annexation conversation is just relative to the bike trail. But if an ultimate subsequent second phase that included the university, it would nullify this contract, because fire response services is a required service of municipalities in the state of Ohio.
Any other questions from my colleagues, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Wallace?
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach?
Aye.
Councilman Smith?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Engel?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Next item is an administrative motion awarding the bid and authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with Worldwide Industries Corporation for the Spring Hill and Patton Street Water Towers painting project. Mr. City Manager.
As indicated, staff is recommending council approve the administrative motion to authorize the execution of a contract with Worldwide Industries Corporation for repainting of 2 of our water tower appurtenances. On May 14th this year, the Public Service Department received 5 qualified bids to paint the 1 million gallon Spring Hill water tower, the 500,000 gallon and 0.27 million gallon Patton Street water towers. One other bid was deemed non-responsive as it exceeded the 10% threshold with the engineer's estimate of 1.225 million. After reviewing the bids for each tower, the public service staff, in accordance with our contracted project manager, is recommending the council award a contract to the lowest and best bidder, which is Worldwide Industries Corporation. While the firm has not previously done any work for the city of Xenia, it is a nationwide contractor with an extensive resume of similar projects covering 18 states over the past 8 years, and we have vetted the company and checked their references. Public service staff feels confident moving forward with the contractor, and so recommends that council approve the administrative motion to award this bid for the Spring Hill and Patton Street Water Towers painting project, and authorize the execution of a contract with Worldwide Industries Corporation for a contract total cost not to exceed $1,016,020. And we did include in the graphics here that logo at the top that you see will be what's on the Spring Hill Tower. The smaller standpipes that we have over at the Patton Street location will just be painted a similar white as the tower that the larger tower that we just repainted there last year. We want the pretty simple design here, something that's pretty timeless. So,
Thank you. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Moved by the Vice President. Second, please.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Lauterbach. Any discussion or question on this motion, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Wallace?
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach?
Aye.
Councilman Smith?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Engel?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Next item is also an administrative motion authorizing the city manager to execute addendum number 1 to the use agreement between the city of Xenia and Casey's Marketing Company. Mr. City Manager.
as City Council is aware, Casey's, a convenience store gas station retailer, has plans to construct a new store on the site of the former Wick Lines location at 1615 North Detroit Street. City Council previously authorized a use agreement allowing Casey's to construct a driveway across the city-owned Little Miami Scenic Trail property along North Detroit Street. They're adjacent to that location. At this point, Casey's is finalizing plans for its construction, and it's been notified by DP&L that it must obtain electrical services from a electric pole within the North Detroit Street right-of-way. As a result, this will require Casey's to construct an underground electrical services line across the bike path parcel. Casey's proposes to construct the line within the area that council has already approved for the proposed driveway in the existing use agreement. Because the existing use agreement only allows the area to be used for vehicular access, the agreement will have to be amended to allow for construction of the electrical service line. Any amendment to the agreement, which must be accomplished through an addendum, requires city council action by administrative motion, and so staff is recommending council take action this evening to authorize that addendum.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Moved by the mayor. Second, please.
Second.
Seconded by the vice president. Any discussion or question on this motion, please? Councilman?
Just a curiosity question. I've been getting questions on, matter of fact, I got one on the way here tonight. When is, are they going to start construction?
I don't know if the city planner can maybe answer that a little better than I can, because he's more closely involved with that discussion on their site plan and the project.
As soon as possible. They're, literally, they're in the process of finalizing their permits with Greene County Department of Building Regulation. This DP&L issue, that the fact that they have to construct their electrical line across the bike path parcel was kind of a surprise to them. So it kind of held the process back, but I believe that as soon as we enact this, this addendum, they're pretty close to being ready to get their permit approvals and get started. So I would expect this summer.
Thank you. It's gonna be a great addition to that in the town.
Yeah, and that location's beginning to be a bit of an eyesore, so it'd be nice to see a project moving forward.
Any other questions from my colleagues, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Wallace?
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach?
Aye.
Councilman Smith?
Aye.
Councilman Dean? Aye. Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Engel?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Next item is also an administrative motion changing the time for the regular meetings of the city council to 6 p.m. for the months of July, August, and September 2019. Madam Law Director.
Good evening. I prepared this administrative motion based on the conversation we had at the last council meeting. What this motion will do is move council's start time to 6 p.m. just for the next 3 months. We'd heard from several of the boards that had moved their start time to 6, that had improved attendance at those meetings. So after discussing it with council at the last meeting, we would like to try doing 6 p.m. for the next 3 months, see if that increases participation. At the end of that time, council can then decide if you want to move it back to 7, keep it at 6. If at any time during the next 3 months you find that you don't like the 6 o'clock start time, we can also move it, have you do a motion to move it back.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion, please, to approve the change?
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Lauterbach. Second, please.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Smith. Any discussion or question on the motion, please?
I have one.
Yes.
Can this take effect for our next meeting in June?
Yes, sir.
We can do it in June?
Yes.
Okay, do I need to make a motion for that, or is this?
I think it might have stipulated.
Because I thought
forgot
our
what
meeting
meeting we
2
were.
weeks was at 6, so.
Yes, you may want to make a motion to amend
To
the
amend it.
ad for the next meeting in June. I apologize.
Okay,
for
thank
making
you.
that.
So I have a motion to amend the current motion to include the last scheduled meeting of council this June.
Correct, that
Second,
would be
please.
27th.
Seconded by Councilman Lauterbach. Discussion on the amendment to the motion. Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Wallace?
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach?
Aye.
Councilman Smith?
Aye.
Councilman Dean? Aye. Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Engel?
Aye.
Motion carried.
And now a motion on the first, or excuse me,
As amended.
as amended. Thank you. Any discussion or question on that motion? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Wallace?
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach?
Aye.
Councilman Smith?
Aye.
Councilman Dean? Aye. Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Engel?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Last item is an administrative motion approving the schedule of bills in the amount of $1,251,142.37. Mr. Finance Director.
Thank you, Council President. This is a large payment for the schedule of bills. Wanted identify two large portions of that, one being about $500,000 in expenditures for the paving of West Second Street, and then another significant amount in the schedule of bills has to do with debt service payments for renovations that were done at the sewer plant on Glady Run. So that's why the schedule of bills is quite large here this week.
Thank you. May I have a motion, please, to pay our bills this evening?
So moved.
And I'll second it.
Moved by Councilman Lauterbach, seconded by the Vice President. Any discussion or question, please? Happy to vote for monies to finish up Second Street. It is a
Amen.
significant improvement and well done. Roll call, please.
Vice President Wallace?
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach?
Aye.
Councilman Smith?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Eagle?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. This time, we'll move to reports of committees. First, the Board of Zoning Appeals. The May meeting was canceled with a training session in early June. Madam Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Thank our law director for helping us with this, and of course, Mr. Forshner. We had the committee present for the evening, and went through a handbook and just went through the guidelines of how we make the decisions, why those decisions are made, and really went over the do's and don'ts and understanding how a quasi-judicial board works. So it was very informative, it was very helpful. We have several new members that it gave them a better understanding of some of those decisions that are difficult to make, but why those are needing to be made. So thank you so much for what you did.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anything for BZA and Mayor Mays, please? Next item is Board for Recreation, Arts, and Cultural Activities. That was a board chaired by me. The fishing derby was conducted 1st of June, and we had approximately 115 children present,
Wow.
which was if not all-time high, it was close to an all-time high. A wonderful day for the event, and would like to especially thank all the volunteers that helped make that event so successful. All of the children in attendance, due to the generosity of several sponsors, walked away with door prizes and other sorts of things, as well as a free lunch. So
That's great.
a well done item. In particular, I would call out Farmers Insurance, and I believe, I know I'll forget at least one, but there were Farmers Insurance, I believe it was Walmart as well, and PureClean. PureClean. And we had one individual talk about an even larger donation for next year. So I am thrilled that these entities are willing to invest in our community, and especially this community's children. And I would extend my personal thanks to them, as well as the thanks of BRCA and City Council and the appointed officials, please.
Mr. President, just to add, our
Yes.
public service maintenance staff took a collection and made a nice donation toward the prices for that event as well, so we thank them for their generosity.
Thank you very much. I knew I would forget at least one, and that is an oversight on my part. I apologize for. Our public service staff has donated significantly to this, as well as, I recall, our Easter egg hunt. So they are doing wonderful things as well for the city's recreation program and its children. So thank you to them as well. And that's all I have. Is our June meeting was canceled, and we anticipate our July and August meetings will be canceled, as our next major event coming up will be the hometown Christmas event. Any questions, please? Seeing none, moving to the Traffic Commission, Councilman Dean, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Traffic Commission met on Monday, June the 3rd, where we had two items for consideration. One was a request by Mr. Joel Betterly to install speed bumps along an alley near Cottage Grove Avenue where he lives. There was no action taken on that request, as the Traffic Commission thought that it would be cause problems with drainage and not actually slow down the children that were going down the alley. And then another one is to evaluate the traffic light at Wilson and North Detroit, where it was determined that further evaluation by the engineering department was needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything for the Traffic Commission and Councilman Dean, please? Finally, Planning and Zoning Commission, Councilman Smith.
Thank you, Mr. President. Xenia Planning Zoning Commission met on Thursday, June 6th. There was just one item on the agenda, which was the Sterling Green Crossing Phase 4 final plat, which we voted on earlier tonight. There was PZ Planning and Zoning unanimously approved it with just a few conditions. Those conditions were to remove a few street trees from their construction plan, and that was reviewed, and that will, they're working with our city planner on that. Basically, just because there's not sufficient room between the tree lawn and the sidewalk. So those conflicts will be worked out through the contractor and Mr. Forshner. And if you want to speak to that, you can, but other than that, that's all they had on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything for Planning and Zoning? Councilman Smith, please. Seeing none, we'll move to appointed official reports and council comments. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you. Just two items. First, I provided for council this evening a document regarding natural gas aggregation. As I have available right now in terms of the number of users, account holders for natural gas services in the community. There does appear to be some value in considering formalizing an aggregation program at this time. I think it's really a question for council to consider based on the savings, whether there's enough justification to move forward. So essentially what you'll see there, that the last two columns to the far right are really the columns to focus on. The column farthest on the right are the estimated community-wide savings per year for a 12 and 24-month term. So you can see in a best-case scenario, community-wide, if we employed an aggregation program for natural gas based on these quotes that we received at this point, community-wide we'd have a savings of about $235,000, and your average household customer would save about $45 per year. Now these numbers are quoted right now. If council elected to move forward with a program, Palmer would go back and reissue another RFP. So the numbers you see here are not the final numbers. These numbers are only good for a short period of time given the commodities market that we're dealing with. So I wanted to bring it back because we did commit that we would provide some additional information. It is that time of year where if you want to move forward this year, we should act within the next few weeks because the market will peak out, or valley I should say, really. As we get closer to the end of summer and fall, you're getting closer to the winter weather months, and so your commodities prices in the futures are going to jump up again. So there is an opportunity for some community-wide savings. It's not huge savings, but it would be some savings. I think our only reservation at this point in terms of a full recommendation to move forward is just adding another project right now when we are pretty backlogged with issues, because we would have to move forward with a full opt-out program the way we did with the electric aggregation program. So there, it's additional community outreach and information that have to be sent out to the folks. Palmer would help with that, but it would add some additional burden to staff to move forward with that program right now. So I can entertain any questions. Apologize for the last minute notice. We were just able to get this meeting in. The numbers are only good for a short period of time, so if we want to engage it, we do need to move forward with that discussion with Palmer.
Comments?
Why did we not get this soon enough to take action with these figures?
Just got the numbers in literally this week, and so the numbers are only good for a short period after they get them. So
how long is short?
I don't think I know off the top of my head, but the typical process then is that we go back and do another formal request for proposal to get numbers, and they're good for a certain number of days. Jared, can you speak to that process?
Yeah, so we did our electrical aggregation. The program's been in place, but we did an RFP, a couple months ago, and it was the same process for that. It's just because it's a commodities market, it changes every day, really almost to the minute. So they don't expect these prices to change. Natural gas has been fairly low for a long time, and they expect it to stay pretty steady. So we had a meeting with them Tuesday. That's when they gave this to us. I don't expect them to change too much, but it's just they have to renew the numbers just to verify that we can lock them in for a 12 or 24-month period. So,
Well, I think it's, if we can save each household $45 a year, using volunteer, that we at least need to go further to see if those prices in fact hold, and try to get them back to us soon enough to make a decision as soon as we can. That's just what I think.
Councilman?
You know, natural gas has been low for years, and it hadn't been feasible for the city up until now to maybe, $45 is $45, but I just wonder, how much was the electric aggregation per household savings?
I have that. I can get that for you.
I mean, it was substantial.
higher.
It was
Yeah.
substantially
Yeah.
more than, I'm
And-
not knocking $45, but, you know, the public got very confused on what to do on the electric aggregation. I mean, they was getting letters from all kinds of energy companies, and, I mean, I guess,
Yes.
I'm gonna have to think about it.
Yeah, there is a lot of work and communication involved. We do have this consultant on board that would help a lot with that, but there's a lot of phone calls, a lot of staff time, and we've never had a natural gas aggregation program before. We've voted on it, and there has been small savings, but we've never pushed that program into implementation. So it would be new for a lot of people.
And what we learned with the electric aggregation, that first time out of the gate is the worst. You know, folks are not used to it, a
Right.
lot of confusion. It's gotten better with the subsequent rounds of aggregation that we've conducted with the electric. Nonetheless, we still invariably get those calls, those folks, you know, they don't remember it. So again, we can do this, we can manage it. I'm a little concerned about that additional workload, but we can do it if you want. And also to address the Vice President's concern, essentially what this was is a trial balloon. See where the prices are, what they would be, and then we would come back with the ability to, you know, to lock in some additional prices. But this gives you an idea of where that marketplace is at, and Councilman Lauterbach said it. In the past couple of years, as we've looked, there just wasn't enough savings to justify moving forward, just because of the nature of the commodities market at that time. So the prices are a little bit higher now, but as Jared said, more stable. So we feel like there's an opportunity for some savings to lock in over the next, you know, 2 years if you want to do that. They're not huge savings, but there are some savings.
Just a reminder, this is an opt-out program, so everybody would be put into it unless they say they don't want to be included into it manually. And there's no contract, so if for some reason natural gas went to zero, people aren't stuck in this by any means. They can come and go as they want, assuming they don't have another contract already set up for themselves personally.
On the flip side, I misspoke at a prior meeting. I thought the voters voted for electric aggregation, but it was actually electric and gas.
And gas, correct.
So so the voters have said, you know, they would like a gas aggregation, so, yeah, I guess we just have to wait and see.
Other comments,
Well,
please?
there was some backlash on the electric, because
A little bit, yeah.
there were some negative comments with people thinking that council was controlling who is providing their energy sources. So, I mean, it's kind of a double-edged sword on that. I'm not familiar with this company, Volunteer.
No, I'm not.
And I'm a little leery sometimes when we switch.
Yeah, and keep in mind, you know, some of these names, you know, these energy markets have transitioned to the point where you have a lot of regional transmission. So your Vectren has really gotten almost completely out of the production business. They're no longer producing it, they're a transmission system. So where you see these companies, AEP is one that you'll probably recognize because they're a much larger energy consortium. But some of these others are companies that have potentially a nationwide reach, but they're in the production business rather than the transmission business.
So if there's an issue, Vectren is the one that comes out and takes
It's
care of it.
all still built through Vectren.
Yeah, everything would still be built through Vectren. Actually, I think a majority of the city actually gets their natural gas through Volunteer currently. They just don't realize it. Vectren sends to the bill, Vectren services everything. You call Vectren if you have a problem. So Volunteer just is the one that pushes the gas through the pipe through Vectren's name essentially. So, I mean, the administrator for this RFP, she has reached out to both of them, and she's used them quite a bit in the Toledo area. Volunteers out of Tennessee, so they're a national company, but she had no concerns about their ability to be able to handle it or administrate any issues should there be any.
Are these residential rates only?
So it's residential and very small commercial. So there is some benefit to small commercial. It depends on how much use they have. I don't
When you
remember.
say, yeah, like a, say Walmart,
Yeah, Walmart would
That's-
have way more use than would, so they would probably already have a contract themselves.
but small businesses, it might be. not.
Correct, yep.
It's worth noting also that the numbers we have here are based on the best numbers available to us in terms of the total number of gas accounts in the city. We don't have that information immediately available to us, neither does Palmer, but we would work with Vectren to be able to to get the updated amounts or, in terms of the total number of accounts as we would make this transition. So these are estimates based on the best numbers that we have. So it could be a little bit better in terms of total savings. Community-wide could be a little worse, just depends on how many accounts would end up being out there.
Any other comments, please?
Well, what do we need to do? Where do we go from here?
I was gonna ask, are you looking for a consensus of council?
Yeah,
as
I don't think
to
we necessarily
proceed?
need a motion, because we would bring an action back to council with, we would bring a recommendation back for a more formal action later. I think we wanted to do a little bit of a trial balloon with all of you to see, do you want us to make this a priority and spend some time, and then take it into serious consideration coming back? Or would you rather maybe wait another year and see?
My question is, this 389, if that falls apart, then this is worthless because there's really no savings. If I'm reading this right. At only 389, a fixed rate, is there a decent savings for a family? Am I correct?
Well, that's where it comes back to that, for a 12-month period, it's $45.
And that's estimated, the market could tank, we don't know the future. So on average, based on where prices have been for the past 12 months, this is gonna ballpark save the community $235,000. We could have a really cold winter and everyone's natural gas rates, if they haven't locked in right now, are variable, so they'll go up and down depending on the season. So, you can't predict the future, but
The other
based
thing to
on the
keep in mind-
past, there should be some savings.
Electric and gas are very closely tied because, particularly in the eastern U.S., a lot of your power plants now are run by natural gas, as the energy source to fuel the turbines. So, you do see some correlation between, if you've got one going up, you may have the other one going up as well, so.
I think I'm seeing a majority of shaking heads with Councilman Latterbeck's observation that I also thought of. The voters did ask for it. I would personally suggest that we get a firm and final quote and see where the numbers land.
Absolutely.
I agree, and we represent the taxpayer. If it's gonna take more administrative time, or is it, we need to see all the numbers.
Yeah, I don't want to belabor that point. It is another thing for us to do. So there's a bit, in terms of your consideration, it's an opportunity cost, because the time that staff would spend on this is something we're not spending on something else. But there is value here. There's a little bit of a savings, not huge, but $45 a year for some families is a lot of money, so.
Yes.
Anything else, Mr. City Manager?
So I think what I'm hearing is there's a consensus for us to at least look at formalizing some bids and bring it back to council for consideration for action.
Yes.
Okay. The only other item I have this evening is a request due to a number of late-breaking issues. I am requesting that council, at the conclusion of the regular session, go into executive session. Those would be as indicated on your sheets, and I don't have it in front of me, for the purposes of purchase or sale of real estate, economic development, and I forget what the exact terminology is, for employees, employment, what does it say?
Discipline, promotion, demotion, compensation of a public employee.
Yep, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
So the mayor just made the motion.
Sure, I'll make, well, that's a request at the end.
Yep, we'll get to the end on that. Anything to the city manager, please? Councilman?
In my communicator letter from the city, I noticed Rumpke, you guys worked out an agreement for bulk pickup with Rumpke. What's that exactly, what's that consist of?
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up, Councilman Lauterbach. We have negotiated a modification to our bulk pickup program that we think will benefit folks community-wide. So under the old policy, under the old policy, Rumpke would pick up 3 bulk items 1 time per month. That policy has now been changed effective June, effective right now, and Rumpke will pick up one bulk pickup per week.
Per the scheduled pickup day?
On your normal pickup days, you would put that one bulk item out with your trash. So now that service is being provided every week. So you can't put as many items out at one time, but you don't have to wait a full month if you have items. You can put one item out per week. So we think this will provide an overall less accumulation of things, it's, not costing us any additional. We still have the service available through the city that for a small, really nominal additional fee, you can schedule some bulk pickup and contact our public service department if you want to exercise that option. But again, at no additional charge, one bulk item per week on your normal scheduled day for your Rumpke pickup, and they'll take that. So I appreciate you bringing that
That's
up.
a good thing, yeah.
Very good, thanks. How will we communicate that to the citizenry?
We have sent, I think it was in the utility bills, was it not?
I'm not sure about the utility bills. I know in the e-communicator it was in there, but I don't know.
There's a piece on the website too, but we can definitely put that on the
It was on
utility
social-
bills
it
as
was
well.
on
and
social media as
Social
well.
media, yeah, Facebook, put it out over there.
Well, a lot of folks don't bother to look at social media, especially as bad as the news is most of the time.
We can do an insert.
But it needs to be in the
Yeah.
water bills, I would think.
Yep,
and-
we can certainly facilitate that. It's a good idea. Well, folks, take advantage of it. It's a service that we're paying for, and it helps to keep the city cleaned up.
Absolutely.
Anything else for our city manager, please?
Just one final item. Could you comment, I know the city's been helping Beaver Creek out, and I don't know if, I don't want, is there any other communities? I know Beaver Creek, I know some people that live there, and they were happy the city of Xenia. I
Yeah.
don't think it's been communicated how
Yeah.
much the city's been doing for Beaver Creek.
Yeah, so we've had two levels of response to help our sister community out next door. In the immediate aftermath, we provided both fire and police drone crews that they requested as mutual aid to be able to do aerial reconnaissance and surveillance over some of the hardest hit areas in Beaver Creek. We learned a lot from that experience. They've used it a lot. I think even National Weather Service and some other entities have used some of that drone footage, so it's been very helpful. We have the ability to take that drone footage and through a program, we can create a three-dimensional model of the landscape. It's pretty amazing what can be done. We also had members of our staff in the fire division who are part of Ohio Task Force 1 and some of the other regional search and rescue teams that participated in search and rescue in Beaver Creek, as well as Trotwood, Harrison Township, some other areas. So we had that first line of defense. I contacted Pete Landrum, my counterpart in Beaver Creek, the day after that event, and offered our maintenance staff if they needed help with the collection of a lot of the debris and removal of that. And he contacted me the next day and requested our assistance. And so we have had a couple staff members for an extended period that provided both dump truck removal as well as an equipment operator with heavy equipment to load those dump trucks. I will forward on to council. I meant to do it the other day and I just forgot. Received a very, very nice email message from a resident of Beaver Creek who reached out and said that the Xenia crew was the first crew that got to their neighborhood and how gracious they were and thankful they were for the city of Xenia providing that service. So this community knows what it's like to go through these events, and I think it's good and kind to provide the services. It's worth noting for those that are watching that say, why are we sending crews, on our tax time? Most of those, particularly public safety expenses, but perhaps all of them are potentially reimbursable through FEMA funds, and that's the process that the state of Ohio is going through right now to request the declaration of emergency from the president to make those FEMA funds available. So we will probably see some reimbursement back, but at the end of the day, we were there to help our neighbor out.
Exactly.
Even if we weren't.
Exactly.
It's the right thing to do.
That's just being a good neighbor.
Yep, it's the right thing to do.
And of course, Xenia knows what a tornado's like, although it was devastating, 1974, we lost 33 lives. So Beaver Creek, or the rest of the communities were very fortunate. I don't know what's the final count, 1 or 2 people died, but.
Yeah, we were, a
It
lot
could-
of property damage, but not a lot of, in
Could
terms
have
of
been a
total
lot,
human life.
could
Yeah.
have been a lot worse.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else for the city manager, please?
I was just gonna tag on to that a lot of the Xenia church community has been reaching out and working with, the Beaver Creek Nazarene Church, now called Be Hope. And they've been kind of a focal point for the faith community, and a lot of Xenia residents from different churches have been heading over there and working with their church. And I know our church, as well as several others, have been getting thank you notes as well from Beaver Creek residents. So it's just another way that Xenia has really stepped in. I've been very impressed with the amount of people from the faith community.
Anything else for our city manager, please?
I hope not.
If not, we'll move on to the finance director.
I have nothing else this evening.
Anything for our finance director, please? Madam Law Director.
Two things, as you have now appointed the Charter Review Commission, the clerk has graciously agreed she's going to get the first meeting set up. We'll be inviting all 5 of the appointees and the 2 alternates, give them copies of the charter, kind of run through the process and let them set their own meeting schedule. So we'll report back to you as we get that set up and as it goes forward. Second thing, I'll let Councilman Lauterbach give you the details, but he facilitated a meeting last week with the Mount Vernon residents from the lady who was at the last meeting.
Excellent.
And follow up to that, Captain Johnson and I will be going out next week to meet with the manager at the Meadows.
Yeah, they were very grateful. They've got some problems out there, and they were very, and I appreciate everybody that attended the meeting.
I've also had a
Please, Chief.
preliminary conversation with the city planner, looking at what we can do to hopefully bring some improvement from a property maintenance standpoint, and from a nuisance abatement standpoint on some of those adjoining properties that are helping to create a lot of the problem out there. So that conversation's in the works as well.
Thank you.
Excellent.
That was all I had.
Anything for our law director this evening, please? If nothing else, I will seek a motion to adjourn to executive session for the purposes of discussing personnel matters to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee, and
Economic development.
economic development, and sale of property.
So moved.
Moved by the mayor, seconded by the vice president. Before we go to discussion, I would assure the audience that there's no intention to conduct any additional city business after the executive session. In the executive session, we will be adjourning and you will not be able to join us. You're welcome to stay here. We will come out and close, or you may depart and we will still come out and close after the session with the appointed officials this evening.
Mr. President, are we not gonna have council comments at all?
We're not?
I'm asking.
Would you like to have council comments?
Well, the only thing I wanted
I was
to,
so excited to, get to this next part of the meeting that.
the only thing I wanted to say was, and which is why I didn't say anything, we were talking about the city of Xenia helping Beaver Creek and so forth, is that the AAMA, the African American Ministerial Alliance, did have a prayer meeting for the residents of victims of the tornado on Wednesday night, and we're gonna gather again on next Wednesday night because the notice didn't get widely advertised. But it's a lot of folk, and encouraging people to volunteer. I didn't know about the Be Hope thing. I was glad to hear that, Madam Mayor. But I do want to applaud the fact that we are helping our neighbors.
Well, while we have discussion, since we have a motion and a second on the floor, if during my call for comments, anyone would like to make any other comments that we would have had I not jumped over that part, my apologies, feel free to do so. Any comments, please?
I'm good.
Good? Roll call, please.
Vice President Walls?
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach?
Aye.
Councilman Smith?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mary Mays?
Aye.
President Ingle?
Aye,
Motion carried.
thank you.